Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to react to things from the 90s that don't exist anymore. Now, this is going to be a fun video, just because, I was born in the 90s and there's going to be so many things that just hit me with a bunch of nostalgia. Do you guys remember Tamagotchis? They were these tiny little, digital pets that you had to look after, otherwise they, died. And I remember around the late 90s, maybe 97 to 99, they just suddenly hit the market and bang, they were everywhere. They were really sought after. I think they became like collectibles, the prices went really, really high. And then they just vanished from popularity. I'm pretty sure you can still get them, but they just weren't anywhere near as popular. I remember Pokemon cards that, when they first came around, they were everywhere. People still collect Pokemon cards now and they can be really valuable, but I don't think they are quite as popular as they were back in the day. Could be wrong, let me know. So yeah, this video, I'm sure it's gonna hit me and a bunch of you guys with so much nostalgia. Let's do it.
But I wouldn't clean my floor with this.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 things from the 90s that don't exist anymore.
Wherever I go, I stay connected with everyone in my life.
It's really easy to stay in touch.
For this list, we're looking at staples from the decade that either no longer exist or are significantly rarer than they used to be. If there's a nostalgic 90s relic we forgot, remind us in the comments, dude. Number 20, dial-up modems.
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the internet, cyberspace, set free. Hello, virtual reality.
Internet access has come a long way in the decade since the 90s. These days, wireless internet, broadband, and LAN cables provide fast and easily accessible internet for billions. But back in the day, the internet could only be accessed through phone lines. Dial-up modems took up an entire phone line at home. While a few remote or rural areas are still using dial-up modems today, the rest of us will never have to hear that awful dial-up screeching again.
Man, I remember we couldn't use the internet if my dad wanted to use the phone. So my dad would be like, you've got 15 minutes max. And you would hear that noise. It's hard to describe.
Except in our nightmares and in nostalgic internet videos like this one.
Yeah, this is the noise.
Number 19, Butterfinger Babies. There are plenty of discontinued candy products from the 90s.
Babies.
One of the most beloved are Butterfinger Babies. These bite-sized balls of Butterfingers were easy to pop in your mouth and still maintained the full-sized candy bar's unique texture and peanut buttery flavor. Plus, they were advertised by Bart Simpson.
Yeah? Well, Bardo says eat my shorts.
Unfortunately, despite the campaign slogan warning that nobody better lay a finger on our Butterfinger, the BBs were discontinued in 2006.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
Although no official explanation has been released, some have theorized that the BB's chocolate coating, which melted easily, may have been responsible. While a similar, smaller Butterfinger version was released, called Butterfinger Bites, they never attained the same popularity. Ay caramba.
See you later, homeboy.
Number 8.
I mean, it must be a lack of sales, because if the product was making good money, I'm sure no company's going to stop selling a product that they're making a lot of cashola on.
18. Encarta Encyclopedia.
You are a learner, questioning the world before you. New Encarta World Atlas from Microsoft.
During the 90s, the internet was not the trusted source of information it is. Well, can be today. Online encyclopedias were still in their infancy. Before the rise of Wikipedia, there was another computer-based encyclopedia called Encarta. Launched in 1993 and originally packaged in DVD form, this annually updated program contained thousands of informative articles on a wide variety of topics. Not only did Encarta include text, there were also videos, pictures, and even trivia games.
Over 900 exciting enhancements to articles that feature guest essays, historical documents, magazine and newspaper stories from the people who were there.
However, naturally, the rise of online encyclopedias ultimately led to Encarta's downfall, and Microsoft ceased its publishing in 2009. Number 7.
Yeah, Wikipedia just came out of nowhere and just snatched up that market share. I have to say, I use Wikipedia so much, because without them, you'd have to go to so many individual websites to find what you need, and it's just, I think I'm going to donate to Wikipedia today.
17. Minidisc Players. During the 90s, audio formats were still very much a competition. One often forgotten contender is the Minidisc. Published by Sony, these miniature discs were envisioned as the next big thing to replace cassette tapes. However, despite proving popular in Sony's native Japan, MD players couldn't find success at a global scale. Record labels didn't take to the format quickly, leaving few albums available initially. Plus, blank MDs were twice as expensive as blank CDs. By the time MP3 players became available, mini-discs were on their way out, although niche markets kept them in circulation until 2013.
And it's as portable as you are. Sony Minidisc, the future of tape.
Number 6.
How much storage? Could you store more stuff on an MD than a CD? Because if an MD was twice as much, but you could only put the same amount of stuff on there, why would anybody buy an MD? Just because it's smaller? Nah.
16. Zima. The 90s saw a trend of clear drinks, and alcoholic beverages were no exception. Coors got in on the trend and created Zima in 1994, a clear malt beverage intended as an alternative to beer.
What if there wasn't any beer? Sorry, guys. Never heard of it.
I love this advert. So old school.
Zima's good.
While the beer found more success among young women, Coors did their best to market it towards a male consumer base. In the end, most didn't especially enjoy the taste, and the product began disappearing from shelves, at least in the West. Coors discontinued Zima in North America in 2008, but the beverage remained popular in Japan until 2021.
I had a Zima once. I don't get it.
Number 5.
I mean, who in their marketing department settled on the name Zima? It sounds like an illness, doesn't it? Oh, did you hear about Brandon? He caught the Zima. It doesn't sound like something you would order in a bar, does it?
15. Pogs. Playground games come and go. During the early 90s, the biggest one was easily milk caps or Pogs.
They're Pogs. They're milk caps. They're Pogs. It's a game. You stack them, and then you whack them.
Players would stack cardboard discs with pictures printed on them. Anything from cartoons to sports logos. Then another larger disc, called a slammer, was used to knock down as many Pogs as possible. Because each player would often keep the Pogs won this way, it was viewed by many schools as a form of gambling, leading to widespread bans.
Gambling.
When kids can't play something at school, it tends to kill the popularity pretty quickly. While they're technically still around, and there are variants on the game worldwide,
This is definitely a UK playground.
Pog's popularity is far from what it used to be. Number 14. CRT computer monitors. Before and during the 90s, most screens were created using CRT, or cathode ray tube technology. Naturally, computer screens were no exception. These big, bulky monitors sat on our desks and are how many of us first experienced computing. But the last few decades have seen the rise of LCD, OLED, and plasma monitors, which are cheaper and generally have larger screens than CRT monitors. Some people, particularly computer gamers, still prefer CRTs because they don't have as much input lag and can display images in multiple resolutions more easily. In general, though, these guys have been mostly phased out.
When I think back to the big grey monitor, it's just, man, it just fills me with like a warmth, you know, like, because that's my childhood right there. Oh, I miss the 90s.
Number 13. Gaming magazines. Video games were still considered a niche industry in the 90s, so they weren't mainstream enough to be covered extensively on TV or the still newfangled internet.
It was all about running out to the mailbox to find that new issue of that video game magazine.
Enter gaming magazines. If you were a 90s gamer, chances are you were subscribed to one or more gaming magazines. Electronic Gaming Monthly, Nintendo Power, Computer Gaming World, Tips and Tricks. These publications gave gamers detailed articles on upcoming games, walkthroughs, cheat codes, and reviews. Plus, they had a surprising level of reader interaction for major publications. Tragically, most gaming magazines ceased publication as the rise of internet journalism made the old monthly issue model obsolete. Why wait to read about it in a magazine when it's already online? Number 12.
Oh man, I used to be subscribed to like a Premier League magazine, and there was just something about getting it in the post and you actually read every single page because you paid for it, you waited for it. I think now, because you get everything so fast, what's the word? I think it's called instant gratification. It kind of doesn't feel like it's worth as much. Do you know what I mean? Like, any of you guys who used to subscribe to mail letters and what are those things that mail lists where they would send an email every week or two? You would read all of it, wouldn't you?
Floppy disks.
I think we've lost
Movable
something.
computer storage in the 90s used to take the form of small 3.5-inch floppy disks. Although the name is a bit misleading for those disks, which, unlike the disks of the 80s, weren't floppy at all. When you needed to save or move information between computers, floppy disks were everyone's go-to. You just popped them into the fabled A drive and off you went. They were so widely used that the save icon in most programs is still the floppy disk to this day. But as technology progressed and storage capacity and needs expanded beyond a few hundred kilobytes, floppy disks are no longer in wide circulation. But if you're missing them, they're still sometimes used for emergency booting in older systems and in other industries like aeronautics.
You could only fit like 100 kilobytes on there. That's not even one song. Like, a song is like 3 meg. So you could only use it to store, like, I'm guessing Word documents and stuff, a couple of pictures maybe.
11. Appointment TV. Once upon a time, we scheduled our lives around what was on TV. This was because if you didn't see a show or a sporting event when it aired, you didn't see it at all. Each time an episode aired, everyone was talking about it the next day. And sure, sometimes you could tape a show and watch it later, but sometimes working VCRs was more art than science. Appointment television was the norm. And so networks did big ratings when a show hit it big.
All your favorites and all new must-see shows!
Of course, streaming platforms now make it easy to binge shows or watch them at your own pace. While some streaming series do release episodes weekly and the concept is making something of a comeback, appointment TV isn't mainstream again quite yet.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Number 10.
Yeah, appointment TV. We used to watch EastEnders every day. Mondays at 8, Wednesdays at 7:30, Fridays at 8 o'clock. And it was just, everybody made sure that they were there and we watched it together. Yeah, those were the days. I feel so old. I feel like such an old man.
Y2K panic.
Doug, everyone here is waiting for the same thing, the stroke of midnight.
We all know that the human race and planet Earth are not going to be around forever. But with the new millennium on the horizon, many believed the year 2000 was going to initiate the collapse of society.
Now, the federal government is comparing Y2K to a huge natural disaster, like an earthquake, a hurricane, or a tornado that disrupts people's lives for days, weeks, or maybe even months.
In the 90s, several computer experts warned that because many computer systems represented years using only the last 2 digits, computers would mix up 1900 and 2000. This led some folks to buy up food and supplies to tide them through an imminent apocalypse. But as it turned out, the world stepped into the new millennium with minimal issues.
It hit midnight and nothing happened. It was like crickets in the newsroom.
While we have dealt with a few other end-of-the-world fears afterwards, like 2012, none quite reached the same level of paranoia.
The end of the world is coming. Now come on, get in your radiation suits.
Peter, we are not missing a once-in-a-lifetime event because of some wacko doomsday theory.
Okay.
Number 9.
Wow, Family Guy's been going since '99. I had no idea.
9. The Windows 95 3D maze. Screensavers aren't all that common anymore now that most of our devices have a sleep function to conserve power. In the 90s, however, there was one screensaver you'd see in many homes: the Windows 95 3D maze. Here, you're basically watching your computer play a video game as it automatically takes left turns until finding the smiley face, thus resetting and generating a whole new maze. There was something really mesmerizing about it between the artificial intelligence and guessing where the face might end up. Honestly, why hasn't Microsoft made a full-fledged game out of this? Number 8, the Delia's catalog. If you weren't sure what to wear for the girls' night or the high school dance, you probably referred to this mail-in catalog of fashion. Founded in 1993, Delia's was the go-to catalog for teens who wanted to wear the latest clothes and fashion trends. Unfortunately, Delia's would be buried by competitors, in addition to being spun off and acquired on a few occasions as time went on. By the end of 2014, Delia's filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and liquidated all of its stores.
I declare bankruptcy!
While it tried to bounce back as an online-only store in 2015, this venture was a complete failure. Now, you can only get their clothing through the Dolls Kill brand. Number 7.
We had a similar magazine called Littlewoods, I think. Same concept, but as soon as the internet started coming in, it just killed it.
Orbits. Yes, it's the magical beady beverage that is featured on many a Watch Mojo list in recent years. Is it a bug? Did someone mistake your beer for an empty and put their cigarette butt in there? With Orbits, there was no mistake. This obscure, non-carbonated drink was manufactured with a small variety of flavors to quench your thirst and hunger. From raspberry citrus to vanilla orange, the beads and beverage made for a unique type of drink. Alas, Orbits would live a seriously short life because of its terrible commercial performance. Given the presence of gellan gum and high sugar, one can hazard a guess at why folks weren't picking these up off the shelves, especially when seeing the edible orbs inside. Number 6.
Kind of reminds me of that bubble tea you can get now. It's almost like an early version of it.
The iMac G3.
You gotta see this thing in person, but I'll do the best I can with video.
Man,
Apple's Mac computers have come a long way. Today, design is all about improving battery life, making everything as thin as possible, and getting berated about updating iTunes even if we don't use it. But in the late 90s, a common Mac computer looked about as chunky as a CRT television set.
The faster, sleeker.
Man, these must be worth so much money now. So much.
Quieter, redesigned.
In mint condition.
And even easier to use iMac.
The teal-colored Macs with their translucent Bondi blue shells were especially a huge success for Apple. But looking back, these desktop computers were also incredibly hefty and awkwardly shaped. That's because it wasn't just a monitor. This was the computer itself.
Heated leather seats sold separately.
Just seeing pictures of these makes us glad schools are using laptops instead. Number 5, PB Crisps. Yeah, we gotta squeeze another food product in here, and this is another snack that's popped up on our lists before. PB Crisps was a special kind of sweet treat from Planters, consisting of peanut-shaped cookies filled with peanut butter inside.
Inside the center so sweet, peanut butter cream, oh, a treat.
And if you wanted an addition to peanut butter, you could buy bags of the cookies that were also filled with chocolate or strawberry. Sadly, these snacks were not around for long due to low demand, and have become a relic of the mid-90s. To this day, there is still a group of dedicated fans clamoring for the product's return.
I think there was a similar campaign for Crystal Pepsi. I think there was a version of Pepsi that was just clear, no typical brown color. I never tried Crystal Pepsi. I wonder if it's going to make it onto this video. Did any of you guys try Crystal Pepsi? Was it any good?
Even going as far as to make a website dedicated to the cause. Number 4, AIM,
AOL.
Also known as AOL Instant Messenger.
Just fire up that machine and off you go. You got mail!
It's been a hot minute since we heard anything remotely relevant to AOL. While AOL currently exists and was acquired by Verizon in 2015, AIM ceased operations in December 2017.
AOL's announcement said simply,
goodbye.
We're shocked too. This service was introduced way back in 1997 and became the leading messaging service in North America for roughly a decade.
Wherever I go, I stay connected with everyone in my life. It's really easy to stay in touch.
But as tech giants like Google and Facebook started taking over, AIM lost all purpose.
I remain confused, empty. What am I evolving into? What is my purpose?
This is such a random piece of, I know exactly, this is Justice League. This is, oh God, what's his name? The android, and that's Lex Luthor. Why have they used this?
I must know! Tell me!
The two companies had better services and better security. Slowly but surely, AIM would begin shutting down features one by one, starting in 2007, before disappearing completely a decade later.
Having failed to keep up with ever-evolving technology, we're forced to say TTFN to the iconic service and a simpler time. We can only hope will BRB.
TTYL.
Number 3, Netscape Navigator.
I've heard of Netscape.
Doesn't even know what Netscape is.
Like a chat room, I think.
These days, we have dozens of web browsers vying for our attention, from Google Chrome to Mozilla Firefox to Safari to DuckDuckGo. We remember way back when the internet was a baby that there was only one browser to use, Netscape Navigator. This browser was created in 1994 and for a short time went uncontested in the industry.
Well, what about all those other low-cost guys like...
Don't you want an ISP that's fast, safer, reliable, and more secure?
What happened to cause such decline? Well, Internet Explorer happened. Then Chrome, Firefox, Safari, all of them. Netscape would receive its final update in 2007 before ceasing support and development the year after.
Everything has to change faster.
I'm sure there's people still using it though.
Obviously, look at Netscape. It was born and died. I don't want to use the word died, they wouldn't like that word, but it basically was born and overtaken within 4 years. That's pretty fast.
Number 2, the Discman. Like Walkmans in the 80s, Discmans became a crucial part of our lives. There just wasn't anything like going on a walk or exercising while jamming out to the newest albums.
But you couldn't really exercise because if you shook it, the CD would skip and like the song would like start,
Besides radios, this was pretty much the way to listen to music. Of course, as we find new ways to store data, we also kill off part of a medium. Nowadays, we can just open Spotify on our phones and jam to anything we desire without having to eject a CD and holster something chunky on our waist. Still, there is something tactile to be missed here.
Your ears will tell you. It's not only what you play, it's what you play it on.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, video rental stores.
Blockbuster.
Dork. Jesus, this place is back tonight, man.
Those who grew up in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s fondly look back on video rental stores. While the very first such stores opened in the late 70s, it was in the 90s that bigger brands like Hollywood Video and Blockbuster boomed in demand. For some families, weekly trips to these stores would become a tradition as new movies made their way to the shelves and movie buffs sought out hidden gems.
Wow! Wow! What a difference! Blockbuster Video!
This industry would decline, however, as Netflix and streaming services became more and more prominent. Hollywood Video would go defunct in 2010, while Blockbuster enjoys a few thousand customers through its last and only store, located in Bend, Oregon.
When you see them all next to each other, it's kind of makes it easier, but with on Netflix, you only see the title, and that's all, but you have to scroll through it, and it takes a while to get through all of the movies.
Did you enjoy this video?
So cool.
Check out these.
There's one Blockbuster left. I don't know why, but I find it so cool that there's one last Blockbuster that's still doing really well. There is something cool about going into a store, seeing all the movies there. You can pick them up with your hand, read the the description on the back. I'd love to visit that. I really, really would. But the internet, it just came in and so many markets, industries, it just completely took over and changed everything. It's a lot more convenient now, I can't lie. Having Netflix and other, streaming platforms makes things easier and being able to find all the information you want online. But there was something about going into a library, looking for a specific book, finding a bit of info. There's just also remembering phone numbers. I remember when I was a kid, I had to memorize my house's number, my mum and dad's numbers, a few aunts and uncles. Whereas nowadays, because you can just save a number, how many of you guys have memorized, your parents, your siblings' telephone numbers? I reckon it's quite low because you could just type in their name on your phone and it brings it up. Yeah, I don't know. Nostalgia, it's a hell of a thing. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.